We all know by now that I think that one of the most important meals of the day is breakfast. But what exactly do I have for breakfast on a regular basis? Today, I want to share with you one of my all-time favorite breakfast recipes, and it's my favorite for a couple of reasons. One, you can basically turn it into whatever flavor profile you want, and two, it is really easy to adjust the protein content and the fat content to fit your macro balance. Without further ado, let's talk about my favorite breakfast, the egg foldover. Welcome back to my channel for a food-related video, and today we are talking all about breakfast. Specifically, one of my favorite breakfast recipes, which is the egg foldover. Now, I wish I could take full credit for this recipe, but I can't. I totally saw it from somebody else on Instagram a year plus ago now. That account is the Sam Plan, and to be quite honest with you, I don't know whether or not this is actually her original recipe, but I give her credit because she is where I saw it from. What is the egg foldover? Well, basically, it is a super not messy, depending on what ingredients you use, way to get your eggs in a little tortilla type situation so you can pick them up and eat it. The way you do that is by actually cooking the tortilla onto your cooking eggs. It's actually really brilliant and so stinking easy. Why do I love it? Because it is so versatile. Any flavor profile you can think of for an egg breakfast, you can turn into an egg foldover, which is super cool. And bonus, you can adjust for what your macronutrient requirements are. For example, do you want to use eggs and have more fat, or do you need some more flat protein? You can use 1 egg and 2 servings of egg whites, or just this morning, I omitted the egg altogether because I needed to save the fat for the rest of my day, so I went totally lean and had 4 servings of egg whites for 20 grams of protein and only 100 calories. It totally depends on the day. I've done 3 eggs and no egg whites, 2 eggs and 1 egg white. The combination possibilities are endless, and you can make it any sort of macro balance that you need it to be, which is absolutely brilliant. But the bottom line is it ends up being this wonderful high protein macro balanced breakfast that keeps me full and keeps me satiated and happy and lasts me until lunch, which is of course what we're looking for in a good hearty breakfast. So today I want to show you exactly what I use for 2 of my favorite egg foldover recipes. For any egg foldover recipe, you need for sure the following. You need eggs, egg whites, or both, and you need a tortilla of some kind. It can be whatever kind you want it to be. Full transparency, I've never used, like, I know Siete has an almond flour tortilla. I've never used anything like that. I've only ever used Mission carb balanced tortillas. Why? Because I like them. They're good. Are they considered a diet food? Yes they are, but you know what? I don't care. I love them. They stay very soft. They stay good for a long time. They have 5 grams of protein in them, and they have a ton of fiber in them. So I love to use the Mission Carb Balanced tortillas. Fun fact about these tortillas. 2 fun facts, actually. One, I've just discovered recently that they have come out with different flavors of the carb balanced tortillas. I have seen around, of course, the original, the plain. I've also seen sun-dried tomato basil as a new one, and like some spinach and Italian herb one. I have tried the tomato ones and they are great. I have not tried the spinach ones yet, so I do not have an opinion to tell you on those. But I do know that I love the carb balanced tortillas. Regular flour tortillas would also work just as well. Any other tortillas, you'll have to try it and let me know. Another thing about the carb balanced tortillas, especially if you are tracking your calories and your macros in the same tracker. While the nutrition information says that these carb balanced tortillas are 80 calories, if you look at the macro math, it actually ends up being like 120-ish calories. What do I mean by macro math? Basic macro math is as follows. 1 gram of protein and 1 gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories per gram, and 1 gram of fat is 9 calories per gram. So if you look at the basic nutrition information on the back of these carb balanced tortillas and you do the math of number of grams of fat times 9 plus number of grams of total carbohydrates, not net carbs, total carbs, times 4, and then you add the total number of grams of protein times 4, you will end up with the total number of calories in a given product. Because the carb balance ones want to boast lower calories, they don't count all the carbs, which is not the way you're supposed to do it. They only count the net carbs, which is total carbohydrates minus the amount of fiber. Because these tortillas are high in fiber, which is great. We love fiber. Fiber is a really, really good thing to consume. But because it's high in fiber, they are taking the opportunity to remove the fiber count, which is very high, from the total carbs, giving you a net carb result and calculating the calories off of that number. This, of course, is misleading, especially if you are tracking macros, because when you track macros, you do not track net carbs, my friends. We love fiber, but we do not subtract the fiber from our total carb allowance. Therefore, your calories and your macros will not add up. That is also the case for many other diet foods that have a lot of fiber in them. For example, Quest bars, Built bars, things like that, all take advantage of this special math, when really they should just be using the total carbohydrate count. For those of you that are like, I think she's wrong, yes, there is some science behind the fact that we don't fully digest certain types of fiber, and there's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, and some of it we only digest halfway, so it should only half count, and some of it we don't digest at all, and maybe that shouldn't count at all. Bottom line is, keep it easy, in my opinion, and just count your carbs accordingly. Anyway, back to the egg foldover. So, for sure, you need an egg of some kind, egg whites of some kind, if you want egg whites, and a tortilla, but everything else is up to you. So first, let's look at my basic everyday, like breakfast sandwichy egg white fold over. Okay, so my first fold over is kind of like my basic, your everyday breakfast sandwich flavor profile fold over. And in this example, I use, as I said, eggs and liquid egg whites because depending on my macro plan for the day, I might need more of one or more of the other. This particular one I filmed, I think, used 2 eggs and 2 servings of egg whites, but again, whatever your macro requirements are, you can change it for that. And then I'm using today Canadian bacon and, believe it or not, a Velveeta sliced cheese, like the American processed in the little plastic wrapper cheese. Why? It melts like a dream, and quite frankly, on a breakfast sandwich, it tastes really, really good. Bonus is it's only 35 calories. Is it real cheese? Questionable, but it works really well in this situation, so that is why I use it. So the basic technique, which I'll show you with this one, is as follows. You put in your eggs and your egg whites, and then any seasoning. I've recently found that I like to put a little bit of dill in my eggs. It just kind of brings out this really great savory flavor that I didn't know was available in my eggs. So I love it. It's a recent addition. And then I also like to put in a little bit of everything bagel seasoning. What you do is you let those cook up until you can tell that the egg whites are starting to turn opaque. They're starting to turn white. And then you're going to take your tortilla and you're going to put it on top of the eggs. I push it down just a little bit to make sure that it's like covered in the liquid, because what you want to have happen is you want the egg to actually cook onto your tortilla. So then you let that sit for a while and let it get good and cooked. It should be cooked most of the way through. Kind of the way that I can tell it's ready to flip over is when I take a spatula and kind of move things around a little bit. I use a nonstick pan, I use nonstick cooking spray. The eggs and everything should all just kind of like move. It should all move around, it should all be stuck together, it should move as one vessel. And then once everything is cooked through, once you see the liquid on the top is not really liquid anymore, like it should be basically done, you stick your spatula over and you flip it. So now the tortilla is on the pan and your eggs are exposed and ready to be turned into whatever your little heart desires. For this example, again, I'm using 1 serving of Jones Canadian bacon, which is 3 slices, so I just slap that on there. And then I take the cheese, I break it up so it kind of melts with most of the cheese being in the middle. And once I have applied my toppings, I flip the one half on top of the other and I let it cook for a little bit on each side because I want the Canadian bacon to get warmed through and I want the cheese to melt. So after a minute or two, I will flip it to the other side and then I will let that cook for a minute or two as well before transferring it over to a plate. Once I transfer it over to a plate, I have taken to cutting it into thirds or quarters to make it easier to pick up in smaller sizes. I just find that this keeps it a little bit neater and it makes it last a little bit longer. And that's it. The egg fold over is really that simple. One of the joys about it, like I said, is you can turn it into basically whatever flavor profile you want. Another one of my favorite flavor profiles speaks to the pizza lover in me, and that is my goat cheese pizza sauce fold over. In this particular day that I recorded it, I actually threw Canadian bacon on there as well, which I don't normally, but I needed extra protein today and I needed less fat today. So this one is actually made exclusively with egg whites. No egg, because I needed to save that fat for my meals for later today. So I eliminated the fat from the eggs and used only egg whites to make sure I got a hefty dose of protein. But then I noticed after planning my macros for the rest of the day, I still needed more protein, so I ended up throwing the Canadian bacon back in there for an additional 10 grams of protein. The process for this one is the same, so once we get to the flip it over so the tortilla is in the pan, this particular flavor profile involves me adding a couple tablespoons of pizza sauce to it, rubbing the pizza sauce all around, and then I added today the meat, but normally my 28 grams or 1 ounce of goat cheese crumbles. The goat cheese crumbles melt beautifully once you sandwich them in there and leave them sit for a minute or two on either side, and then it turns into like this just creamy, pizza saucy, delicious blast of Italian flavor that makes my heart so stinking happy. It is the OG of the egg fold over for me. This is the kind that I started to do, and then the secondary kind that I started to gravitate towards was the original I talked about a little earlier. Like I said, it's that simple. Am I in the mood for pizza? I have a recipe for that. Am I in the mood for a traditional breakfast sandwich? I have a recipe for that. The possibilities are endless. You could go taco, add a little bit of taco seasoning, some pulled chicken or some taco meat to it for your protein. Do you want to do some barbecue? You could do barbecue. The possibilities are literally endless. Let me know in the comments below what a flavor profile idea for your egg white fold over would be. I would love to come up with a couple more new and exciting ideas for this egg fold over concept. And that's it. This is seriously one of my all-time favorite breakfasts because it is so versatile in terms of flavor and you can easily fit it into your macros. You get a heavy dose of protein and a heavy dose of fiber first thing in the morning, as well as all 3 macronutrients balanced out. It is hands down one of my favorite things to make for breakfast. Yes, it takes a little bit of work. You gotta do some egg stuff in a pan, but you know what? The results are great. Pair it with a side of fruit in the morning or a piece of toast, whatever it is you want. You can turn it into whatever you want and you will feel full, satisfied, and really glad that you got a great start to getting your macros in for the day. Now I am dying to know, what are your favorite breakfasts to make? What breakfasts do you have that make meeting your macros easy? I would love to hear about your suggestions in the comments below. If you liked this video, it would really help me out if you gave me a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that little red subscribe button and join the Diva and the Divine community. We would love to have you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care, happy breakfast, and I will see you